Now, to finish off this complete guide to Photoshop elements, we're going to have a look at a number of different features. Number one, of course, filter effects. There are hundreds of different filters in Photoshop elements, and some are good, some are bad, some work, some don't, etc., etc. We'll find them up in the filter menu at the top of the screen here. Now, there is a separate thing called the filter gallery, or we can actually access some of these just independently or individually by going through some of this, but it's probably easier to use the filter gallery. Filter gallery, I suppose, puts them all into one big window. Again, it's a little bit like an application with an application, and hopefully this is actually going to work for me. And it allows me to see exactly what I'm doing with the pictures all in a big window. Here we go, here comes the big window. And I'm just going to resize it so it fits into our slightly smaller video window here. Now, one of the things we need to understand about filter effects is a lot of the filter effects require millions of calculations, so you have to be a little bit patient sometimes, even with a super duper whiz-bang fast computer, in order to get the effect to happen. We've got a sepia-ish shot of giraffes that I thought I'd show you here, and there are a number of kind of nice filters, and I have to say there are probably 10 filters I come back and use again and again. One of them is called Fresco, and this allows me to add kind of a fairly cool effect to these giraffes. And you can see here they're pretty frescoed anyway, and if I fiddle around with this we may just get a little bit more texture. Okay, that's just amazing. It makes almost no detail no change to the image whatsoever, and you'll find that with some of these filters you fiddle around for 10 minutes and go, well, what on earth am I doing here? This is just absolute rubbish. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think I'm going to have to say that in the case of this, we're not getting much of a radical change. Okay, so then we can go on and choose something else. The cutout filter, which is the one that started it all just as we began this little tutorial, is what I call the Andy Warhol effect, and all this does is it actually restricts the amount of colors in the picture. So probably the best thing to do is not to play it on something like that. Let's just try Mr. Gorilla here. So again, we can go to the filter gallery and see what happens. So it's going to automatically apply, I think, the cutout filter. So it's a little bit like posterization. At the moment we've got it set by default to 6 levels. Wow, okay, that's pretty cool. Bring it down to 4 levels and it'll recalculate. So it just restricts the number of colors in the picture and basically simplifies the image. I rather like the effect here. If we just go back up to 6 or 7 levels of color, it should separate the gorilla out from the things. And then edge simplicity. Okay, look at this. This is pretty cool. Look at this edge fidelity. If we bring it down to 1 or 0, it becomes almost pointillist. Not almost. Actually, edge simplicity. That's pretty cool. Almost abstract. So we'll put edge simplicity up to about 9. Look at that. Fantastic. I love it. It's cubist, isn't it? Very cubist. So, you know, you can make some very interesting graphic effects. And there are dozens of effects. You know, neon glow, I think, yeah, I'm never ever going to use that. Plastic wrap, that is so cool, but again, I'm probably never ever going to use that. Rough pastels, probably not. Watercolor, probably. You know, you get some kind of nice effects using the watercolor filter. And as you can see here, it really does take a little bit of intensity and a little bit of practice. Let's zoom in a little bit in order to actually see what the heck we're doing. Let's just go plus a couple of times. See what Mr. Gorilla, you can see the detail in the face. It's actually piling in all sorts of amazing almost sort of textured detail into the image there. Okay, and these are the artistic ones. They're very artistic, and I actually kind of like them. Poster edges is a very cool one. This is what poster edges does. That's very effective, and again you can make it as heavy or as light as you want. In fact, I'll bring this down to posterization. So it's a combination of outlining and, as you can see here, posterization. Very cool little feature. Okay, down below we also have things like brushstrokes, and again this is a little bit more artistic because it actually adds, you know, some brushstrokes to the results. Again, not always easy to use, and as you can see here, it's still taking quite a long time to actually work. White intensity, black intensity. That's a little bit creepy, isn't it? Just with the eyes looking at me. Black intensity, bring that down a little bit, and we begin to see we get some kind of cool effects. If we then go for something like a flower, you know, I think you'll find also a flower will probably work beautifully. And again, looking at cutout, I think that works extremely beautifully. Okay, and we can go completely mad edge fidelity. Edge simplicity, there we go, you know, that's quite crazy. Let's try Fresco, and that actually works very well. It probably works better than on my Gorilla photo. My favorite one, which is Poster Edges again, which I think is fantastic. Bring the intensity down a little bit. Brilliant. Now, when you click the OK button, you may look and go, okay, not as good as I thought it was going to be, because I'm not quite sure if there's an explanation for this, but whenever we add an edge effect or add a filter effect, sometimes it dulls it down, flattens it down. So it's a really good idea to get in there with levels and brighten it up. It's a really good idea to try getting in there with, for example, hue and saturation, crank up the color if you think it needs it. And that's how we can use our filter gallery to create some awesome looking results. It's a pretty sharp, clear looking filter, pretty sharp, clear looking water lily to begin with anyway. We can then go down to brushstrokes, as we've just touched on. We can have a look at Distort, which is a little bit more esoteric. You know, the glass one looks like you've just laid a pair of crinkly glass, sheet of crinkly glass over it. Don't use that a great deal. Sketch is kind of fun. Allows me to choose something like, you know, halftone pattern. Wow. Let's go like this, and begins to look a little bit like the graphic. I rather like that actually. Look at that, that's pretty cool. Dot pattern, contrast, push up the contrast. Okay, a halftone pattern gives you some good sort of feedback. Photocopy, wow, looks like a really bad photocopy. And stamp, you know, how graphic is that? They're very, very cool. So there are applications for all filter effects, and they do produce some awesome results. So we've looked at that, we've looked at that, we've looked at stylize. Look at this glowing edges. I don't think I've ever used that, and I've actually never seen a picture where it actually works. So stylize is something I definitely wouldn't cross the road for. And then of course we've got the texture ones where we can add all sorts of textures, such as in this case craquelure. I don't even know what craquelure is. It's like cracked varnish, isn't it? Craquelure. Crack spacing. Okay, look at this texture it's putting in there. That's absolutely fantastic. Crack spacing. Crack depth. Okay, very deep cracks. Oh, they are too. Crack brightness. Does that refer to the intelligence of the cracks or the intensity of them? Okay, so that's kind of interesting. What else do we have down here? We have the ability to add grain. Most of us want to get rid of grain, so don't use that a great deal. And the ability to turn the picture into a mosaic tile, a patchwork, stained glass. I've never seen stained glass looking like that. Or a texturizer. And we can add something like, for example, canvas texture. Burlap is fantastic. Look at this, fantastic. So if you do this to a picture, the best thing to do is then go and print it on watercolor paper or print it on canvas, and it's going to look fantabulous. So that's filter effects. I really like filter effects for graphics, for arty stuff, for making greeting cards, posters, illustrations, that kind of thing. You probably wouldn't do it on a picture of your mum and dad, but as I say, for graphic and illustrative applications, it is fantastic. We're going to have a look at something that's a little bit sort of on the esoteric department, and that is a tool here called the Recompose Tool. I had to laugh when I saw this because I thought, wow, you know, okay, Recompose Tool, yeah, but it sort of does work. Okay, it sort of does work. I am going to do this. The Recompose Tool has, under the tool options here, two different paintbrushes. One mark for protection, so I'm going to mark cheetah number 1 to be protected. They are protected species, and cheetah number 2. I might just sort of do a little bit up and down there as well. All right. So this tool, I believe, is based on the Photo Merge Panorama technology. Let's go and choose red and say, look, I want to get rid of that stuff in the middle, and we can crush up this. And this is essentially a tool that allows me to, this is just crazy, it's a crazy tool, allows me to recompose the image. Now, how does this work? We just grab hold of that and we squash it together. So you can see I'm not actually crushing the cheetahs, but I'm sort of compressing the image like this into what I think is probably approximately a square shot, and it's going to go off and recompose and process that. It's unbelievably good for what it can do, but I don't see a huge number of applications, to be totally honest with you. It's a bit weird. And as you can see here, the Recompose, even with a very fast computer, requires a fair amount of grunt to actually come up with a result. But you know, that's the Recompose tool, and there are a number of different ways of using it. Don't forget, green is stuff you want to preserve, Red is stuff that you don't mind being compressed and squashed out of its brain. So there we go, and that's the result. What I need to do now, of course, is use the crop tool to crop that bit out of the way. And if I zoom in and have a look, yes, so you can see there's a bit of funny stuff been going on in the middle. It looks like it's got wet or something. But you know, actually it's not too bad. That was a fairly extreme example, but you know, hey, it's not a bad result. Okay, once you've finished and created awesome looking pictures, you may want to just consider what you're going to do next. It may be that you're going to print, it may be that you're going to upload to a website, and it may be you want to upload it to a social media site. And you will find in the organizer an amazing range of share options, such as a private web album, of course Facebook. You can include it in an email attachment. You can make a photo mail, and a photo mail is very simply like a web page inside your email. Rather than just sticking a photo onto the email, you actually send the entire page, which is kind of nice. And we can upload to all the usual suspects here. For example, Flickr. And it's saying, are you want to with all the currently displayed photos? So I'm going to say, I don't think so. I'm going to choose a photo here that I want to upload. Let's send up one of these little fellas here. Where have they gone? Here we go. I think I'll upload this one. Here we go, this picture here. This is a special effect I've done, and I rather like it, so I'm going to choose share, upload to Flickr, and it prepares the files. Now what you'll find is if you choose Facebook, Flickr, or any one of these social media websites, you need to authorize it. So what will happen is a little page will come out and say, do you want to authorize this? You have to log into your Flickr or Facebook account or whatever, and Flickr or Facebook will then say, are you sure this is you? Do you really want to authorize this? And you go, okay. And I'm going to upload this as a set. I've already done this, obviously, so I'm going to upload it as a set called Arty Effects. I'm not going to bother to describe it. I want it visible to anybody. And look, it's got a tag. That's interesting. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? And I'm going to put a tag on with my name, Robbie on, and I'm just going to upload. And that very simply is how to let the rest of the world know that you're just an awesome photographer, but even better, you're a fantastic editor with Photoshop Elements. Enjoy.